Alright, and we're back with Game 2 of CoolIo taking on Ride My Rocket. So, CoolIo up 1-0. This is the Losers Bracket Finals, as I've said multiple times, I'm sure, at this point. But that means that CoolIo is now one victory away from moving to Diamond Division. And that obviously would be their first trip to Diamond. Archie Tiger and Co went to Diamond previously as members of Wapdash, I believe. I think Archie Tiger was on that team. And did Chat Roulette Boys ever make it to Diamond? No, they didn't. So that might be where you know some of these players from. You also might know them from being on the competitive scene for a really long time. And actually there is some history between these two teams as well, because I think Forgotten One, Pingu, Archie Tiger, and Catlamane all played together when they were members of Wapdash or Chat Roulette Boys, one of those two teams, and now obviously on different and opposing squads. Worth mentioning, as usual. But we're well into the drafting phase right here, so going to be looking at bans on the Legion side of Cthulhuphant, Silhouette, Kraken, and Revenant to start off the game. Archie Tiger feeling like Q-Zane's Kraken did a lot of work right there, maybe just doesn't want to face it. And Cthulhuphant, obviously a pretty standard ban. If you're not going to pick that hero, you probably do want to ban it, as Archie Tiger has first pick right here, but evidently doesn't feel comfortable playing Cthulhuphant, or whatever this game doesn't want to play Cthulhuphant, I don't know. In either case, Silhouette going to get taken out by Pingu right here. I'm sure that ban hurts, because I believe he likes to play Silhouette. I don't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure he does. But Marcus Moy proving last game that he has just way too much experience and talent with that hero to be addressed. And the other ban being Revenant here, as Adro had a pretty good game with Revenant, to be honest. Didn't talk about him too much, or, well, at all, really, except for one mistake he made, so sorry, Adro. But Pingu clearly respecting that combination and feeling like he needs to get rid of it. Legion's going to pick up Parasite, Swiftblade, and Empath right here, so good Empath-Swiftblade combination as usual, and Parasite being the broke-as-shit hero that we know him to be in this current patch, as this is pre the slight nerf to him, so early pick on Parasite obviously makes plenty of sense. It's surprising to manage to get a third pick Swiftblade right here, considering there's no Cthulhuphant, as the Hellborn went for the Magmus over Swiftblade, and that allowed the Legion side to pick it up, so I'm really liking this Legion draft so far. A lot of extremely powerful heroes, and some heroes that work well together as well. And Hellborn going to finish off their Magmus pick with, or complement their Magmus pick with Torture and Ophelia. So some pretty good push so far, actually, from the Hellborn side, especially on towers, as the Impalement and Ophelia minions will be very helpful in that. And decent team fight as well, Magmus Eruption. And then the gank potential from Ophelia and Magmus going to be quite solid. So both teams with commonly picked and generally powerful heroes. I do favor the Legion draft slightly at this point, but obviously we're only 2/5 of the way, 3/5. God damn it! Sometimes I can't do math, apparently. Of the way through the draft, so who cares? Ravener, Puppet Master, and Dr. Repulsor will be removed by Archie Tiger, once again targeting those bans on the short laners, and particularly on Imba Pingu, and feeling like he doesn't want to face those heroes. They did leave the Dark Lady open, which is a very good hero for Pingu, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them pick that up, because it not only would be good for them but in general, but he plays it well, and it would fit this lineup fairly well, actually, to be honest. Torturer and Dark Lady in the top lane would be a pretty potent combination, with Torturer one of the best babysit/zoning supports, and Dark Lady very much appreciating the space that will be created and the freeform that should be granted as a result, and they can definitely gank with Ophelia in that lane as well and get some kills, so I wouldn't be surprised if the TDL is the selection for the Hellborn side. Hellborn going to ban out Prisoner, Bubbles, and Moraxes, so mostly looking at initiation potential here and trying to eliminate that for CoolIo, as they didn't have too much of that before the Pharaoh pick, so you can definitely see where Pingu is coming from in that respect, especially the strength initiators. They just don't have that much tankiness in general, and so want to prevent them from getting heroes that are difficult to kill, especially when you consider at this point the Hellborn don't have the greatest damage output. They don't really have the heroes that are going to do the damage yet, hopefully, but at least through their first 3 picks they don't have a ton of DPS. And Pharaoh will be the 4th selection for CoolIo on the Legion side, and that's going to provide the initiation that they were lacking before. And Minimaggot saying something, I think 2 days ago during the Grand Finals about Pharaoh, just what does he provide? And to be honest, he hasn't won that many HoN Tour Season 3 games. I do kind of like the hero despite that. I like the fact that he doesn't need too many items, and he can be very powerful in the suicide lane under the right circumstances. Whether these are the right circumstances, I don't think so, but it's possible, I suppose. I don't know. And in general, I think he's kind of a mediocre pick right here. He's not particularly tanky, and he'll almost certainly be occupying that suicide role, so not going to have too much in the way for him, which is okay, but I don't know, I don't get a hugely great feeling about Pharaoh in this game for whatever reason. Maybe it's the fact that it's a third melee core, and I don't like that, but if they pick Blood Hunter, I will completely write this draft off, so for the love of Christ, please don't do that. Madman going to be the fourth pick for the Hellborn team, and I sincerely hope that's a Suicide Madman, but that's actually going to create some problems, because it's going to turn this into a jungle lineup with 3 reasonably greedy cores, presuming they pick a short laner that has a similar thought process. And so the other option is to run Madman short, which is a decision I wouldn't really like. And alright, let's talk about the CD in a second. But yeah, short lane Madman, not a fan. I like the Suicide Madman, I think it works very well. But he's not going to get too much farm, assuming that Pingu is still looking for a hero, if that is eventually his role, so that could end up creating some problems for RmR. By the way, the CD pick, that's real weird. I mean, potentially it could actually combo very well with both Empath and Pharaoh, as Corrupted Disciple typically has issues locking people down. He has no CC tools to speak of, and he's very fast, but usually you don't want to, you know, only be fast. You also want to prevent people from running away, especially when it comes to that Corrupted Conduit and his ultimate continuously bouncing around. So in that respect, those heroes could combo fairly well. But in general, you look at the CC for this Legion side and where their stuns. I mean, they have one sort of on that Empath that's targeted, and they also have the Wrath of the Pharaoh. And other than, I guess maybe Parasite Minotaurs, but I feel like Pushbook is just going to beat this team completely. Like, you pushbook people out of Pharaoh Mummy walls, you pushbook people over Empath walls, up and down cliffs, so Swiftblade and Parasite and Corrupted can't chase you. So let's get it on. I feel like it's going to be Tablet City here for RmR, and that's going to be very valuable for them. Now, they finish off their draft with Wretched Hag, and that is going to go to Imba Pinku, so no huge surprise that he had not selected his hero quite yet, and I actually like that pick a fair bit. They are, once again, very magic damage heavy, so that could create some issues. But it's not a hugely greedy short laner, and that means that Madman and Magmus and Ophelia will be able to soak up some farm here. So definitely not a terrible selection overall, and we'll see how it works out. And presumably this is also going to be a short lane Wretched Hag with a Suicide Madman. And that'll result in also a pretty good landing situation for the Hellborn team, except for the fact that they're running Magmus and Torturer middle is my guess, but oh well, I guess you can't have everything. Unless they put Magmus Tort top, which, yeah, okay, I like this a lot more, actually. Yeah, so if they send Wretched Hag middle, she's, again, not going to have the greatest time, because I think she's not a particularly great middle lane hero. Then again, it's going to be up against the Swiftblade, so yeah, she'll be fine. You know what I'm talking about, she'll be fine. Yeah, it's going to be 1 versus 1 Swiftblade versus Wretched Hag, so she won't have any difficulty whatsoever in that lane. Swiftblade cannot kill a Wretched Hag under pretty much any circumstances unless Hag massively misplays. And bottom lane presumably will be Marcus Moy on that CD with Empath helping him out up against this Madman. So Madman could actually have some difficulty, because if you put a Dust and an Empath wall down, Madman can easily die in the Suicide lane, and it's going to depend on whether Adra actually gets Rev, but my assumption is that yes, he will, because he's not brain dead, he's been playing this for a long time, he's been playing support for a long time, and he should have no difficulty doing that. Except they're going to send him middle, which is something I heavily disagree with. Yeah. I don't like this in the initial stages, because I don't think Empath is a great mid lane support. The wall angles just aren't as good as they are compared to the bottom lane or the top lane, because there's just so much open space here. So finding the appropriate place to wall somebody off so that they aren't in a good position is much more difficult. Not to say impossible, but certainly much harder. And up against a Wretched Hag, it just isn't going to matter. So we'll see if they choose to rotate the support right here, but I sincerely hope that they do, because I don't see Empath doing much of anything up against Hag, even in a 2v1 situation. Hag's not going to get a ton, but and she won't really be able to harass this Swiftblade completely out of lane. But at the same time, I just don't feel like Empath is going to have a particularly impactful game in mid, especially when you compare what she could do to a Madman in the bottom lane. That will now not be done. Wow. What? Okay, Forgotten One, you fucked up real good here, it seems. Okay. He got under the tower with level 1 mummy walls in it. Wow. So this should have been a really good lane for the Hellborn team, and now it's not so much, because we're going to have a Boots Pharaoh right off the bat, and that's going to more or less prevent him from dying consistently, which he otherwise would have done. Because Ophelia rotations, there is no Word of Sight here for Pharaoh, and continuous jumps from the Oaf and the Torturer and the Magnus, there's too much stun potential right there and too much damage output for him to survive, considering he doesn't have a traditional escape mechanism. So now that he's got boots, he's going to be much more difficult to kill, and that's a pretty serious issue for the Hellborn team, because this is a lane they should have dominated, and they should have gotten a really, really easy portal key on Magnus. They probably still will. And see, this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. This is what I expected would happen, and actually still could get a kill right here, but the boots are, again, making this a problem. It's a level 1 Torture with Impalement, so yeah, they can't find the stun from Magnus. If there was a stun from Magnus, that's an easy kill on Catlo main right there. But that's purely boots. That's purely boots getting him away right there. So that's the Bloodlust from Torturer misplaying it a little bit too aggressive right there, and all of a sudden they can't kill this Torturer anymore, or the Pharaoh anymore. So Torturer can zone him and do so fairly effectively. He's still having to hug his tower right here, but it's not the greatest situation. And all of a sudden, CoolIo could have a much better time than previously he should have, because he should have gotten crushed up here, and he won't be. Middle lane, Pingu at 260 GPM. That's not a huge surprise. The Omega on this Switchblade is doing better at 300, but again, they're committing a support to help that out. And Adro has 69 GPM, so obviously no CS for him. Still level 2. And Wretched Hag is just not getting shut down all that hard, so it's a situation of, you know, this is what's going to happen, because yeah, you can just blink away from the Essence Link, and you can blink over the wall, and you can blink away from the Switchblade spin, so Pingu has no reason to be, you know, particularly fearful about dying in this lane. He's going to get a bottle, as he already has, and those bottle sips will continuously keep him alive. He also has Rune Vision in the top lane, which means that he should have better rune control in this team because of the blink. And there's going to be a spin right there, but again, blink away. So this is why I don't understand why Empath is hanging out in this middle lane against Wretched Hag. I sort of get why they had initially. They were afraid of the Magnus Torturer middle. They wanted to make sure that Switchblade had a good time in here. But once they saw the Hag, I think you more or less need to immediately recognize that Empath is just not going to do anything for Switchblade that he couldn't do by himself in a 1v1 situation. I think Switchblade will definitely lose this lane if he's left up one versus one, but at the same time, you can destroy Cookies in the bottom lane and ensure fantastic farm on a Marcus Moy in bot and heavily win that lane, as opposed to what's happening right now is that you're not really shutting down the Wretched Hag, and you're not going to. So you're sacrificing potential kills on that Madman in the bottom lane for a little bit more GPM on the Omega and a little bit less GPM on Pingu, and I really don't think that trade-off is worth it. And this 4-minute rune will be controlled. Top lane is just a refreshment, and bottom lane it is illusions, so Switchblade can be heading down there. He actually does have the bottle as well, so Empath just guarding it and making sure that the illusions are picked up, and then he will rotate over because they don't have vision of that bottom rune, so they want to make sure that Switchblade fills up his bottle. So he will be picking up the illus and use them in jungle. Actually, this small camp has been stacked, so I like that a lot, to be honest. This is one of the advantages of Legion jungle, is that the small camp is so close to the middle lane, which means this mid hero can often jungle it pretty effectively if it gets stacked. So Adro, no doubt, facilitating that. Maybe it was Archtiger, I don't know. Whoever it was, that's definitely helpful for Switchblade's farm, as he can just sit there and spin on it. Bottom lane we've mentioned a couple of times, but haven't really talked about too much. Cookies at 150 GPM, still 0-0 and 0. So definitely not getting good for him down here by any means. Marcus Moy is over double his GPM, but that's not particularly surprising, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it continue. It really should. Madman, you're just not going to die here unless he messes up, because Corrupted Disciple, again, no CC tools, which means Madman can continuously just stalk away and be totally fine. So either it's going to take a gank from Parasite or a mistake from Cookies in this bottom lane to get a kill. Speaking of Parasite, he hasn't ganked at all, and we're currently sitting at 5.5 minutes in, and despite the fact that he hasn't ganked at all, he has 230 GPM, so having some difficulty farming right here. This Vulture Lord and double-stacked Wolf Commander camp will help with that substantially, and he's definitely playing this right, so I can see a lot of CS right there. And this last Wolf Commander will die, which get him up to 250 or so GPM, yeah. And then the Vulture Lord also gets him to 265, so... Archer Tiger having a decent time in the Legion Woods. Boz is having a terrible time in the Hellborn Woods. We saw him gank once in the top lane, and that one little break from farming is not an excuse for the fact that he has 160 gold per minute. And as far as I recall, he didn't have any camps blocked, and the fact that they just stacked this at 6 minutes means I'm pretty sure he didn't have any camps blocked. Even if he did, he should be farming better than this. As new jungle did hurt Ophelia a lot, and she doesn't farm as well as she used to, but at the same time, 160 gold per minute is not where you want to be. I mean, that's where a support should be, not where free farm jungler should be. I will give them some credit on RmR side. They've managed to actually shut down this Pharaoh a lot more than they thought. I thought they would be able to. He's still level 3, which is where he was maybe 4 or 5 minutes ago. Like, that's pretty impressive that he's basically got nothing in terms of XPM since, you know, he was chased out of that top lane by the Ophelia gank. And that's doing a lot to keep Catlow main down, and it will prevent him from having much of an impact in this game because Pharaoh doesn't need money too much, but he does need levels if he wants to be effective. And getting neither of those is not going to facilitate his ability to assist his team. And meanwhile, that prevents... Oh, crap. Pingu dies in the middle lane as I completely missed that. Gets the Essence Link off, and there's the stun from... Oh, Swift Slashes, that's what it is. So, Pingu trying to get the blink. Was in blink animation, but the Swift Slash is too much damage, and the additional level on Swiftblade no doubt helping there as well. So, Rusher Tag does get picked off in the middle lane, but it takes them nearly 7.5 minutes to get that kill. Bottom lane, Cookies also falls, because apparently I've missed every single thing here. Gets dusted out. A face hug from about 1 billion range away. That was pretty funny to watch. And Parasite finishes off that kill, so well done to Arch Tiger. With a good rotation back behind the tower. It would have been difficult for him to find the angle there if he'd just gone straight up the lane, of course. Torch going to rotate middle, as he's figured Catlow main is no longer going to try to do anything in his top lane. Q-Zane basically just getting complete free farm up there, as he's at 360 GPM, which is decent, but you look at the CS scores across the board, Magnus is at 52 now, and both Swiftblade and Corrupted Disciple have exceeded him. Now, Swiftblade did farm the jungle a little bit, but as far as I recognize, I don't think... oh, they're going to get the stun here onto the Swiftblade. Gets spin away, but the impalement still does some damage. I don't know if they're going to have enough. Well, Pingu really wants this, gets the Essence Link out, though, and he's going to take some good counter damage, as they won't get particularly close to killing the Omega right there on the Swiftblade, so a bit of an aggressive gank, and doesn't pay off in the end. Not a huge surprise. I think they probably could have seen that one coming. Top lane, Invis Pharaoh going to lead some levels and try to screw with this Magnus' farm, who I really don't get why he's not having like perfect CS, or at least better CS than this Corrupted Disciple, who's definitely been more contested than the Magnus has for the majority of this game. He obviously still is farming very well, but it seems like he must have missed a couple of last hits that he probably shouldn't have if he's farming like that. Bottom lane, Madman getting chased out once again. He is dusted out, and it looks like he'll be falling, yeah, as Marcus Moy gets the last auto attack. The Electric Tide hitting at just the perfect range, more or less, and nobody will fall in the Legion Tide either, as Parasite takes over the Hell Cannon, and we'll start to push this lane in, perhaps even. So this bot tier 1 tower for the Hellborn side is quite low already, and it could be getting even lower here as a double catapult wave comes through, and actually this could be a tower kill relatively easily unless they want to use a glyph, and even if they do use the glyph, I still think it's going to fall, yeah. So they're just going to sack this, it looks like. Parasite doing a lot to assist that tower kill. Teleport is cancelled. That was definitely the correct move. Middle lane, they're going to try to get this Rush Hag again. They can't find her, though, actually. The blink away, but the Energizer is there from Swiftblade. He has Swift Slashes available. Can't find the Hag, and she took the correct juke spot and will survive no problem. So Pingu not going to take a second death in that middle lane, despite the new Energizer pickup from Swiftblade along with Ghost Marchers. So between those two items, he's real fast. And the difficulty is catching a target that can teleport, because that is faster. Pharaoh level 5 right here, and getting pretty close to that almighty level 6 mark, at which point he can gank very effectively. Boz sending some creeps in. Perhaps looking to dive a tower. And Swiftblade in the top lane controls route, and it is an Invis. And they're really looking for this Pharaoh here, but they're not going to find him because he's nowhere nearby. As he picks up Steam Boots as well, so all of a sudden nearly 1,000 health, and he's going to be much harder to kill Hellborn looking to push out a tier 1 tower right here. And, oh, bottom lane. CD trying to chase down Madman, but the stalk is successful. This time I don't think he would have dust on him now. He didn't. There was actually 3 conduit stacks. There's a Rev Ward here. That's going to find Swiftblade despite the Invis Rune. Erupt the Eruption doing nothing thanks to the magic immunity. They get 1 counter kill. All of a sudden, Pharaoh coming back in. Noise Blessing will keep Torture alive for a while, but I'm not sure if the chain reactions will be enough to finish him off here. Here comes 2 members of the Legion side to help support that, and the wall off will stop Ophelia for at least a little while. Not the greatest angle from Adro right there, but actually takes over the Skeleton King, does Parasite, and that's going to be another kill. Is Adro inside of... Yeah, I think Adro was inside of Parasite, who's then inside of a Skeleton King, so I'm like, where's the empath? He's hiding. So, in the end, it's a decent jump from the Hellborn team, but they get turned on real fast. And they're going to slow down this Magnus a little bit. He already does have his portal key, so not hugely necessary, more items, but with 370 GPM and considering the priority form they gave him, you'd certainly like to see him have more of an impact than what he's had so far, which is a 0, 1, and 1 score. Middle lane, Parasite kind of hanging a little bit. So we're past the 10-minute mark here, and CoolIo up by about 5k gold and 4.5k experience. They're definitely taking a solid lead at this point, and they're going to jump on top of Rechag right there. There's 2 ultimates to use, but it's well worth it as they finish off into Pingu, the Silence, and the Swift Slashes coming through, and nothing that he can do about that unless he had Vision or a Sixth Sense. And a Vision situation with the Hellborn team actually pretty insubstantial right now. They have a top ward of sight from the Forgotten One, as well as one in the top lane, and actually going to catch out this Madman here as well. This stun from Empath is going to be very helpful to Architiger finishing out with a leech. Nice chain reactions from Torture, and all of a sudden Parasite could be in some trouble. No, a beautiful initiation, but nope, it's going to be the Lava Surge portal key from Magmus that finishes off that kill onto Pharaoh. Onto Architiger, excuse me, Parasite. All of a sudden Pharaoh is the one that's a lot of trouble, but the wall from Empath will prevent them from being able to effectively chase, and that is a getaway. So, portal key being used effectively right there by Magmus. He will get teleported back to base, and he'll be just fine. Gonna get some mana back, has Eruption back up in a couple of seconds, but likely would want to wait on that. Bottom lane, Marcus Moy gonna drop to Pingu as the Bat Blast hits him, and the tower damage is just too much, so unfortunately made the mistake of targeting the Hag, and it appears the tower aggroed to him. The additional damage on top of the Bat Blast and Wretched Hag's Burst. She has a level 4 Sonar Scream and a level 2 Haunt. Was enough to take out that kill. We're going to see a teleport here in the middle lane. She's going to slow down a little bit. Magmus looking for the stun, but can't waste it. That was a really interesting initiation from Magmus right there. Dust of Revelation goes through from Swiftblade, and Magmus is Madman's going to hit by that. Norris Blessing going to keep everybody on the Hellborn side alive for a little bit longer as the Omega falls. Eruption really doing very little there. And they're going to be able to stun out Parasite here as well. That should be 2 kills going in favor of the guys on RmR. As a nice 5-man gank right there on the middle lane was successful. More teleports coming in here for CoolIo. Is actually, they're going to do that aggressive here. Empath getting absolutely destroyed. Wrath of Pharaoh gets hit on Magmus, but he's going to go the other way and the blink away from Pingu. He's actually still going to die as the Corrupted is able to chase him down with his ultimate. So ends up being yet another kill for the Hellborn, but it's not a good trade as they lose their Magmus in exchange for Empath. And CoolIo's lead dropping a little bit there as a result of that engagement, despite the fact they took a tier 1 tower in the middle lane. And RmR is still very much in this game. Not out of it by any means, but definitely on the back foot, and if things progress in the same way they did last game, then you're certainly concerned about their chances, because sure, they don't have the greatest farm on Parasite, they don't have the greatest farm on Pharaoh, but you look at the Swiftblade and the Corrupted Disciple as they are leading this game in GPM, just over that Magmus, and those are 2 heroes that you don't want to be leading the game in GPM if you're RmR, especially as we approach the mid-game phase. They are both very, very powerful mid-game carries, and between the 2 of them, it wouldn't be surprising to see them force a lot of really bad initiations for RmR. Looks like CoolIo wanting to take on their tower here and finish off their collection of tier 1s. As RmR wants to take their first tower of the game, so there's going to be some counter pushing here in both the middle and the bottom lane by RmR as their top tower falls. And we'll see if they mount any defenses right here. Both Ophelia and Torture are on the side, waiting for some potential As the bottom lane, actually, nice deny from Catloman, and he will get out of there as well with the mummy walls putting up against Madman. Wasn't really any danger considering Madman doesn't have any mana, but that was good. Nice Skeleton King net right there from Ophelia, stopping the initiation from Swiftblade, and they will defend the mid tier 1 successfully as the Hellborn team gets on out of there. And we'll be fine. In fact, the rotation might be there onto Pharaoh, as it looks like that's the person they want to jump. There is an aggressive Ward of Sight right here for the Forgotten One. That should provide them some vision here, but in fact it's Madman that finds the stock onto Pharaoh. The Portal Key Magma Stun is available. He needs to find the angle for it. Oh, what a Wrath of the Pharaoh. Gets the creep wave as he's going to go down the river now. And the question is, will be able to get away? No, the chain reactions go through. The Mummy Walls are going to be extremely annoying, but Magmas can PK over them in a second, and actually, Pharaoh's going to get away. So, extremely effective Wrath of Pharaoh right there, and a very nice play from Cat Lomain as he evades the massive gank squad from the Hellborn team. And Twitch chat pointing out, by the way, that Pingu has gotten the Alchemist Bones. So that's definitely to counter the Parasite. Parasite's going for the puzzle box, though, and that's going to increase her farm, which is nice, but she has 930 health, and she's probably not going to have too much health as this game progresses, which means that instantly killing those puzzle box minions isn't really going to be the greatest thing for her. So yeah, it's great that she'll destroy them. It's less great that she'll take 600 true damage, which is going to be most of her health. So we'll see if that actually ends up being happy times. Meanwhile, Swiftblade, yeah, you're going to probably kill this Wretched Hag. Nope, they're going to back off. There is no mana on Empath, so maybe that's why they felt they want to keep chasing. There's mana on Swiftblade, but he was down all of his cooldowns, and Empath also going to pop out soon. So I guess I'm not really interested in getting too aggressive and making what could have been a bad play, and that was probably the correct decision. So well played to the CoolIo team, as they're playing it relatively safe. They know they're ahead, and they don't really want to screw that up, getting kills that they can't get. Middle lane, 3 heroes pushing this down for the Hellborn team, and I mentioned it briefly during the drafting phase, but there is a good amount of push on this Hellborn side, especially between Ophelia and Torturer, and it's kind of surprising they haven't been able to take advantage of it so well. Obviously, lots of tier 1s, or only one tier 1 still available for the Legion side, but at 18 minutes, that's still not the greatest thing. Uh-oh, Torture, that might not have been the greatest thing. Architiger apparently can't target right here, but the Electrotide will finish off the Forgotten One right there. Nice Bat Blast onto 2, but Balls is still going to fall on the RmR side as Ophelia unable to do too much of anything. She just doesn't have the items to do it. Corrupted Disciple getting chased down by Wretched Hag right here. She is going to die or get the kill. Haunt's there, need to deny. Yes, nice deny on a Marcus Moy as Imba Pengu falls in the background. So another really good counter initiation there from the Legion side as they managed to pick off 3 more hero kills, and the Hellborn don't even get that 1 kill that they got on Marcus Moy. So him dying, not the greatest thing. Him being denied, much better than him actually dying. I'm going to try to find some counter here onto the Swiftblade, but I don't think it matters. There's a Ward of Rev right here, so I'm going to be well aware of this Madman if he tries to stalk again. Gets the dust out onto him as well, but they don't want to follow up chase as they don't have the initiation there from the Legion team to lock anybody down and kill them, and they're just going to back off. So I'm liking how CoolIo's playing this a lot, actually. They're taking engagements that they can take and not trying to take engagements that they can't take. And it sounds really obvious that teams should do that, and then you see teams continuously fighting for way too long. They try to get a pick, and they don't get the pick, and then they keep chasing the hero, and the support comes in from the rest of the team, and everybody dies, and it's not a good thing. But CoolIo seem to have a good sense of when it's time to back off, and they're definitely turning that into a pretty good advantage early on in this game. By the way, Staff of the Master is picked up on Corrupted Disciple as his first item. I have no qualms with that whatsoever, as the Hellborn team's armor is going to be non-existent after a couple of seconds thanks to all those bounces. And with the walls from Empath and Pharaoh, it should be pretty easy to keep people within range to get the bounces. Their overall CC, as I said earlier on, is not particularly good, but maybe they can outplay it, and it won't be a problem. At this point, it really hasn't been that big of an issue. It's going to be more of an issue in team fights, to be honest, as it goes forward. And I really haven't seen too many legitimate 5-on-5 engagements. And you take an example as Magmus has gotten a couple of eruptions off, not too many onto multiple heroes, and he's sort of just used it as, oh, I guess I can also use this. There really hasn't been a Magmus, I'm going to erupt and go in type initiation. It's more like been, oh, I guess I'm going in, we're sort of making a small gank. It really hasn't been too much team fight stuff. Speaking of other items, Pharaoh picking up an Astrolabe here, which is an item we don't see too much on Pharaoh, but it's fine. There aren't too many great Astrolabe carriers on this Legion side, and having an Astrolabe is great. What Staff CD do? It allows his ultimate to bounce. So you can see -1 armor every 0.5 seconds at level 3 to the lowest health target in the area around you, bouncing twice. So it actually does a good amount of damage, because that's 62.5 physical damage times 3, which ends up being 187.5 physical damage every half second. So it's more like 360 damage per second, which is a lot of damage, and -1 armor to 3 targets potentially. And we're going to dust right here onto Magnus, gets hit by the face hug, but disjoints it with a steam bath somehow, even though he just dusted. I'm not sure how that happened. I guess the Invis detect wore off, and it was just a vision. Omega getting blown up on that Swift Blade before he can get a Swift Slashes or his spin off. Pharaoh Manuel is going to do a lot to disjoint this team, but we still have 4 heroes going to chase him down, and the Haunt is there. That should be a pretty easy kill onto Catloman right here. He's going to try to deny himself the Conqueror, but that's not going to happen. He can't even get the aggro. So it's 2 heroes dead on the Legion side as the Hellborn have a nice initiation right there. And that's pretty much what they need to do. Conqueror, by the way, was being addressed a little bit by the Legion team, and the Hellborn actually saw that as Pharaoh led them right to it. So this half-health Conqueror with 2 Legion heroes dead should be cleaned up pretty effectively by the guys on RmR, and that's going to be a token of life. Not sure who. My guess is Madman? I don't think it'll be very effective on Madman because he only has 200 GPM and Pingu's got nearly 400. So yeah, it's going to be Pingu who picks up the token right here. And that's not bad. Yeah, so Staff CD is something we see a lot, and for good reason. It's a fantastic staff effect, and it's quickly become a core item for a Corrupted Disciple. So again, have no qualms whatsoever with that pickup. He's also gone for Glowstone right here, which could either be an Icon of the Goddess or a Frostwolf Skull. I suppose either of those would be fine. I would much prefer the Frostwolf Skull though, so I really hope it's not an Icon. As we said earlier, twice now in fact, they could potentially have some CC issues in this Legion team, so getting a Frostwolf to slow some people down would be very, very valuable, as it's going to increase Corrupted's chase potential and prevent him from getting kited as effectively. Speaking of push books as well, the first one of probably many has been picked up on Magnus. I wouldn't be surprised to see a second one on Ophelia as well, and potentially Torture if he can manage to get the form up. He has only 150 GPM, but presumably at some point he will have the money for it. Middle lane eruption goes through onto pretty much 2 heroes as Wrath of Pharaoh was used to get into that, but Corrupted Disciple is just way too tanky. He's not going to activate his ultimate as he jumps away from the Bat Blast, but still Catloman of the Pharaoh is dead. Essence Link keeping him alive for a little while, but not long enough. All of a sudden, Empath in a lot of trouble as he's going 1 versus 1 against Hag, who comes right back with the token. So it's going to be 1 dead on now 2 dead on the Hellborn side as Torture also falls on top of the Madman, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to get too much else out of this as Hag gets the blink on out. So they lose the token right there, but they pick off 3 hero kills, and they only lose their Suicide and their hard support. And as far as losing heroes goes, that's about as good as it's going to get. And so another pretty solid engagement actually right there from RmR as they kill a couple of cores and a support, most importantly Marcus Moy and that Corrupted Disciple. And all of a sudden the experience and gold is much more even than it was a second ago. So 1800 experience, or 1800 gold in favor of the Legion side still, but nearly 3k experience for the Hellborn team. And double stacked ancients, triple stacked ancients can be stolen right here by Swiftblade. Not doing them very quickly, because he does have an Astrolabe, which is good. Actually found right here by Wretched Hag, has the spin available, so he won't be in too much trouble. But obviously no cleave on Swifty, and didn't want to use the spin to clean up the Ancients because of the potential of getting caught without his magic immunity, as was very possible right there. And therefore only getting a couple before he eventually has to cede the rest to Wretched Hag. He's actually taking a lot of damage from that, and he's going to be a little careful here. Oh, Wrath of Pharaoh is in, looking for Hag, can't find it. All of a sudden, it's going to be the chain reactions onto the Pharaoh. Magnus gets the stun as well, and Catloman... that was a really aggressive and ballsy play, but maybe not that well thought out. I get you're trying to pick off Pingu, and that would have been a pretty great pick-off, but not ended up working out. By the way, speaking of Pingu, he has 450 GPM, so despite a really mediocre start in the middle lane, that Alchemist bonus has actually proved to be a reasonably effective pickup, as he also has a Grimoire power on top of that, so doing a good amount of damage thanks to that Grimoire, and still relatively squishy, and still quite farm-focused, so you'd think that if the Legion side would force the issue a little bit, that they would have a better time of things, but for some reason they haven't tried to take just like man-up team fights. They haven't done too much forcing of engagements on this Hellborn side, and they've basically been allowed to do whatever they want. Eruption getting charged right here onto Swiftblade. Will take the stun and just gets destroyed as the Bat Blast is used as well, and there's nothing that he can do about that unless he's got much better reaction times, because the stun is there right after the Eruption, and there's just way too much damage to survive. So yet another pick onto Swiftblade, who's now 4-4-3. Marcus White 3-3-5. Both of them hanging around that 400 GPM mark, and both Q-Zane and Pingu actually are over that farm. So all of a sudden things going much better for the Hellborn team. Up to the side, we're going to pop his ultimate, but gets stunned out by the Magnus. Parasite inside of a puzzle box minion, but Marcus White gets destroyed. Actually going to get the kill onto Q-Zane, and now going to try to run away. We'll get the TP on out. No, he won't. The damage is there, and it's another kill for Imba Pingu, who's 9-3-4 now on this Wretched Hag, and just doing a ton of work all of a sudden. That Grimoire of Power is really very helpful for him. And they need to start doing something about this Wretched Hag, because, again, for the 4th time, CC tools not really there. Wretched Hag, a hero that you need to CC. And the CC tools the Legion side do have, them, those being namely the walls from both Empath and Pharaoh, not very effective against Wretched Hag. So they need Sheepsticks, they need Hellflowers on this Legion side if they want to be able to kill Imba Pingu, because at this point he's getting tanky enough to survive some initial burst and then blink away if he needs to. So we'll see what they choose to go for here on the Legion team, but it doesn't look like either of the cores in the Omega or Marcus Moy are interested in picking up a CC item at this point. Currently, Archie Tiger sitting in Puzzle Box level 3, and he has another 700 gold, so he's not anywhere close to a Hellflower or a Sheepstick. Magnus, though, is, as he picks up the Hellflower right there. That's going to be a problem for a number of heroes on this Legion side who are all reliant on their cooldowns. Pharaoh is going to do more or less nothing when he's Hellflowered, and CD could do some stuff, so probably not the target you want to go for. Swiftblade, depending on what state his cooldowns are in, could be a good target to Hellflower, but Parasite, also one that's very reliant on his cooldowns, and therefore could possibly be a solid target for this Magnus. But obviously, off the back of that Portal Key stun, it's going to be relatively easy for Mag to lock people down now, as he's picked up that Hellflower with a Perplex. And he won't be having mana issues anymore, which is always nice. So, CD continuing to work on the Shrunken Head, it seems like, here, as he's picked up the Muddy Blade. It could also be a Frostburn or a Dawnbringer or something like that. As Parasite, yeah, you dead, buddy. He was inside of a creep and immediately got forced out of it, so Gank Squad from the Hellborn team is successful. And you look at the site, actually, from the Legion team, is very aggressive, this top lane, and one in this Hellborn Woods, but that really hasn't been their game plan. They haven't been ganking the Hellborn Woods a whole lot, so some interesting ward placement right there from Adro, who I don't think is maybe on the same page. And you compare that to the Hellborn side, the Forgotten One has an aggressive ward here, as well as here, and as we just saw, and also protecting Kongor, as we just saw, they are making use of that. This Word of Sight definitely spotted out Parasite farming in the Legion Woods and assisted in getting that kill. So the aggressive playstyle of the Hellborn team is being complemented by their current vision situation. And I would say less so for the Legion side. CD, 200 gold off of his Shrunken, so we'll be seeing that likely in the next team fight, and that's going to be very helpful for him, of course, and this is going to mitigate a crap ton of damage. And obviously he doesn't really need too much in terms of damage items thanks to that Corrupted Conduit and having that Staff of the Master, which already gives him essentially a lot of damage. And we'll skip straight through those pauses as usual. And there's the CD SH pickup. Other items coming through, as Frostbird has finished on Swiftblade, and does he have anything else? No, it doesn't look like it. 400 GPM, but on top of the Astrolabe, sorry, not the Astrolabe, the Abyssal Skull, the Vestments, the Energizer, and the Ghost Marchers. It makes sense that that's about where his farm would be. And it looks like that Shrunken Head is going to be the cue for the guys on CoolIo to try to take a fight right here. I think Forgotten One might have gotten spotted, and if he wasn't before, he definitely has been now, but that was some interesting reaction times there. I think Omega was not expecting Torture to be there. They're going to dust out on Madman, and that's going to be one kill as he tries to survive, but the Swift Slash is just doing way too much damage. Actually, Archie Tiger, the one that gets that kill, so all of a sudden this is a 4v5 fight, and that'll be a free tier 2 tower in the middle lane. That's the second to last outer tower that the Hellborn have, the top tier 2 being the only other one left, and Apparently looking for pauses, but not finding any. A little bit of BM here from CoolIo, as they don't technically have to use pauses. I mean, it is well within their rights to say, yeah, it's within their rights to say no. It's a little bit iffy to do that. And you usually like to see, you know, teams be a little more sportsmanlike, but I honestly don't know how many pauses they have left. If they only have the one, then I completely understand why they'd say no, because if they have a problem, then they need to have that pause.
The Legion have overrun a Hellborn FOB.
So, oh, apparently they will call a pause. So they're gonna take a tower and then they'll call a pause and try to push a base and stuff like that. Anyway, so I hope whatever problem was there was resolved. I like to see good sportsmanship in these games. And the Legion side will back off, it looks like. They don't want to consistently push this tower. They don't have a token. Kongor is not back up yet. The Token of Life on Hag was already used, of course. She used it very quickly after she got it. And by the way, Legion side only have the 2 towers as well, and one in the top lane and one in the middle lane, the one in the middle quite low. So at this point, the guys on RmR actually have a golden experience advantage, a pretty significant experience advantage for that matter, and a decent gold edge as well, as the GPM charts still put Wretched Hag at a ridiculously high amount of farm, and she's got a Nullstone on top of that Grimoire of Power, so she's going to be very difficult to kill in these team fights, to be honest. And in fact, I don't really see them taking her down, because they're just not going to have the appropriate CC to keep her in one place. And whether or not she'll actually get enough damage out of this fight, or if she'll take too much to be able to continue fighting, is another question. Going to be difficult to kill, no doubt. Eruption getting charged in the bottom lane. On top of the Corrupt Disciple, can't get his Shrunken off, and it won't matter. Even if he could have right there, and he could have. He was unstunned for a second, but the right clicks were too much. So Marcus Moy getting caught and killed really easily, and Kongor's back up right now, which means this will be a free Kong for the Hellborn team. He has no buyback. And that's going to be a free token, presumably once again on Wretched Hag, who now has 4,600 gold saved up, so she has plenty of buyback money available. Now, the Legion side apparently are well aware of the Kongor possibility here. Of course, they know Kongor is alive, and without Marcus Moy being there, they figure the Hellborn team may be really interested in taking a Kong, and the reason that Marcus Moy doesn't have a buyback is because he just used it. So apparently I'm drunk, but they're going to immediately buy back on Marcus Moy, figuring no Eruption on Magnus. This is a good time for us to take a tower and maybe even a set of racks. There you go. Pingu eating the creep with the puzzle box. Other Parasite creep running away, as Parasite's inside of a Hell Cannon right now, and this tier 3 tower is actually falling relatively quickly. Magnus the 2-man stun. Puzzlebox Wizard gets finished off, so Under Scream going to help with the D push a little bit as well. And Corrupted Disciple dropping a little bit low, obviously still has a Shrunken because it was never used in that last fight. But nonetheless wants to be a little bit careful right here, as he doesn't have a token, so his positioning is going to be extremely important. Magnus Hellflowered him. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Magnus likely did Hellflower that CD in the bottom lane and prevented his Shrunken from coming out. I don't think it would have mattered, to be honest. I mean, by the time he would have been able to get the Shrunken hat off, he would have been so low that the right clicks would have finished him. So, I mean, if he had used his Shrunken, if he hadn't been Hellflowered, I think that probably would have been a bad play. Anyway, there's the Eruption once again. Wrathafair going to completely whiff as Marcus Moy dies for a second straight time with no Shrunken getting off. Hellflower this time was on Swiftblade. It eventually wears off. Swiftslash is doing some good damage with Mooder's Blessing, going to heal it right back up. So if he's trying to get something out of this, Pingu going to be able to blink away. He'll be just fine. There goes Swiftblade. All of a sudden, Pharaoh's in a lot of trouble as the Haunt goes on to him, and the damage from Wretched Hag is way too much. Cookies actually gets that kill. Q's with a double tap in that fight, and it's a 3-0 in favor of the Hellborn team, and this should lead into a pretty easy token. For the guys on RmR, if they want that, they could also potentially Rax, as none of those heroes have a buyback. And with just Empath and Parasite trying to save this base, it's not going to be successful. There's a Sheepstick from Hag, and actually they're going to burst up this Parasite really easily. And actually Legion going to call a concede vote right here, which may be a little bit premature. Yeah, I think they can probably still come back and win this, and considering this is the losers bracket, I don't think you want to CC quite this quickly. It seems like Hellborn does not know how to initiate a fight. Well, they definitely know how to initiate that fight. So, you might have had just about the worst timing on that comment right there. Because that was a pretty huge fight from that was started by Magnus very, very well right there. Anyway, it's going to be a token here once again on Wretched Hag. The Hellborn are going to pretty much be in control of this game right now. So RmR looking to tie this series up, force a game 3, and keep themselves in the running for that Diamond Division spot. Bulwark is completed on Magnus, and presumably they'll be sent to defensive most of the time. No, they're going to go offensive with it. It seems like, yeah. That's kind of iffy to me, actually, as most of their damage on the Hellborn is still quite magical. We have a Basher up on Madman along with his Nullstones, who's actually gotten some pretty good farm, 300 GPM for that Suicide Madman, a hero I haven't talked about much this game. But you look at the Corrupted Disciple, I would think the defensive Bulwark would be much more effective in countering his boosted ultimate. And there's just not that much magical or physical damage coming out from the Hellborn side that is going to be assisted by reduced armor. So we'll see where Magnus chooses to keep that, but I feel like it's a good pickup, but used in the wrong way, perhaps. And the rest of the item situation, Shaman's Headdress currently on the Pharaoh, and it looks like he'll be building that into a barrier idol, so that's kind of what I'm talking about. Barrier idol can be very helpful with keeping the creep waves alive as they try to push into the towers on the Hellborn side. But Pharaoh thinking, there's so much magic damage on the Hellborn side that I'm going to get a barrier idol. Magnus thinking, our damage is so physical based, I may get an offensive Souls Bulwark. It's a little bit interesting. I mean, Ophelia, it's 3 range heroes, but Ophelia hits for 130 damage. Torturer hits for 82 damage. Wretched Hag hits for 200 damage, which is fine. Like, she puts out a decent amount of physical damage right now, but you compare that to the Grimoire of Power and the Eruption and the Torturer Torment and his chain reactions and his agonizing bonds. I mean, the majority of the damage output on the Hellborn side is physical. It's mostly Hag and Magnus, and most of their damage is physical. And you compare that to the Legion side, the vast majority of their damage is magical. Or is physical, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? It's confusing because I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, there's Bat Blast on a 3 right there. Actually, there's Archie Tiger. Gets killed pretty damn quickly. Hag is getting real aggressive here. Still has the Token of Life, of course. Gonna get stunned out by the Essence Thing right there, and maybe forced to drop it right here. That's gonna happen. Magnus looking for a stun onto something. Does finally catch the Swiftblade into the Eruption. He has no spin, or does he? Yeah, he didn't. Anyway, Marcus Moy gonna die in the background as well in the Corrupted Disciple. Madman trying to get away with the stock. He is seen, of course. Face Hug from Archie Tiger will help finish off that, as buybacks are all over the place from this Legion team. And well, I won't be able to finish off the Hag. Actually, a 3-man stun right there, and Swiftblade could be in some trouble. Hag probably coming back in. There's the Hellflower as well, and they're gonna be able to finish off the Omega. Empath probably not in the greatest position as Ophelia gets picked up despite the use of the push book. 2-man Lava Surge from Magnus. I don't think Corrupted Disciple's going to be surviving for much longer here, but Empath probably the first one to go down. Yeah, Corrupted and definitely also going to fall as they cannot do anything against this Wretched Hag. And Parasite will be able to get away, but he's the only one that survived, so a bunch of buybacks. And actually, there's the CC vote. Yeah, so that's not a huge surprise considering how that fight and how the last couple of fights went. And in the end, it's going to be a tied series now, as RmR ends up taking Game 2 on the back of a really nice recovery, to be honest, from Mbapingu, who had a decent time in the middle lane, but not a good time by any means. But once he got that Alchemist Bones, even though it was quite late, and the Grimoire of Power, his farm just exploded, 662 GPM at the end of that game. And with the Sheepstick, the Nullstone, way too difficult to kill for the Legion side, and I think part of that did come back to, you know, they just didn't have any lockdown. They had no stuns. They had almost no slows. I mean, when you put that together, sure, they had a good amount of damage output, but they just got kited to hell because they had heavily mobile heroes in the Hellborn side, especially since Wretched Hag, Magnus, and Madman are all heroes that are very difficult to kill. And then, of course, you throw the Ophelia teleport in on top of that every so often. And, hey, that's what happens. So, game 2, gonna go to RmR, as they are unable to... or CoolIo is unable to finish off the series in just 2 games. That means both of these teams will be facing elimination, as well as a potential promotion to Diamond Division, depending on what happens in Game 3, which will be coming at you guys in just a few minutes. So stick around, we'll be right back with the 3rd game in this series.